This is what I mean when I say you just got to eat it. You eat it every day. And this is something that everyone who has experienced some point of marginalization knows exactly what this is, okay? If you're a woman, even if you're a white woman at your workplace, okay, you've been talked down to and you've heard misogynistic statements and you've made that mental calculation of, do I talk about this? Do I bring this up? And if I do bring this up, what will be the reaction? Will I be treated as a nuisance if I bring this valid concern up? What will the people around me think? All right, let's get into it. Early voting is starting in New York. How are you still talking about this, Jesus Christ? All right, shut the fuck up. We're moving on.
For endorsements.
Andrew Cuomo received the backing of Mayor Adams yesterday, but now he's under fire for some controversial comments about Zohran Mamdani.
Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg here now with more as we are hearing from Mamdani and Curtis Lewa today.
That's right. And if you're following Curtis Lewa, you know that he's at a subway station every day. He was again at a subway station this morning campaigning, as he does every day, reiterating that he is not bowing out of the race despite pressure from Andrew Cuomo and others who say he is a spoiler. And Sliwa plans to participate in early voting, which starts tomorrow.
I'll be voting for myself and straight down the Republican line. Now, I know that probably won't end this nonsensical discussion of dropping out, but if you can't realize by then...
I don't know why he takes the beanie off when he's doing the debates. Like, I genuinely thought, if Curtis is a real one, he keeps that shit on while he's... Okay? If you take the beret off while you're piping, okay, you're fake. You're phony. If you take the beret off when you go on that debate stage, you're fake. You're phony. I think it's up that he does that. And it's not like when you take it off, you're actually taking it off. You still got the tan line. So you carry it on stage with you. You know what I mean? Like, we know you got the beret on, brother. You got it on when you even have it off because of the tan line. So just keep it on. This is a genuine concern that I have with Curtis Lewa. A real concern that I have with his campaign. If I was his campaign manager, I'd be like, dude, you have to keep it on at all times. Okay? Happy to explain. It's old person. Hats are not inappropriate. Indoor culture norms. You think that's what it is? It's disrespectful to keep but he keeps the beret on inside too, right? Like in other circumstances, I feel like I'm sure there's like images of him indoors with the beret on, right? Like there must be.
That have actually voted, exercised the right that people have died in battle to preserve along with free speech. Well, then you're never going to realize it.
And while Sliwa is staying in the race, Andrew Cuomo is hoping his endorsement from the current mayor gives him some traction as he trails Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani today plans to further lash Cuomo for an exchange on WABC radio yesterday morning in which the host, Sid Rosenberg, suggested Mamdani would celebrate a 9/11-style terrorist attack, and Cuomo failed to shut him down.
Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat?
Yeah, I could. He'd be cheering.
Mamdani calls the incident disgusting and Islamophobic. Cuomo said he wasn't the one to say the remark. Today,
yeah. What's so crazy about the way that he's packaging this and the way that he is like defending it is he has the audacity. Cuomo has the audacity to say, oh, that wasn't me. That was Sid Rosenberg who said it, right? But you agreed with it. That's number one. It was yesterday. That's number two. It is in line with your campaign messaging. That's number three, including the racialized ad campaigns that he's put out. And your counter to it is, well, Zohran went on a podcast 4 months ago with another Muslim dude who once said America deserved 9/11 6 years ago, and they didn't even talk about 9/11 on the podcast, and Zohran didn't agree with that sentiment in any case, but I'm still using it as a deflection. How can you have these two opinions at the same time? So Zohran getting boosted by me is a major point of contention in your campaign that you have decided is like the most significant line of attack, but you going on Sid Rosenberg's radio show yesterday and being like, ha ha, you're right, Zohran would love another 9/11 to happen. He would cheer it on. You agreeing with that sentiment is not a problem? Are you insane? This is the dynamic at play, the asymmetry at play. This is so frustrating. The equivalence would be if Zohran and I did a podcast today and I was like, dude, 9/11 was awesome, don't you think? And then Zohran was like, yeah, I do think it was awesome. We should have more. That is the equivalence of what Andrew Cuomo did. It's insane. It's insane, okay? The mosque that platform Cuomo condemned him today. The leader of the Bronx mosque that hosted Cuomo last month said his remarks yesterday suggested Mamdani would cheer 9/11 if it happened. Again, evoke painful memories of anti-Muslim backlash. We condemn his remarks completely. It is very hurtful to hear. It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Also, this is why white supremacy and white supremacist values are a united struggle, even if someone is white, okay? For all the other chatters who are tuning in, okay? I understand this because guess what? Any point of marginalization, no matter how inconsequential or insignificant it may seem in the grand scheme of things, is oftentimes utilized by right-wing assholes and reactionaries as a weapon that they wield, okay? Like, look no further than this shit. You're getting closer to Rush Limbaugh status, listener reach every day. Former governors bring you up during debates. I know. It's so dumb, but that's the reality that we live in, I guess. I eat it every day, okay? Trust me. No matter how white I am, and no matter how much I say I'm white, I can't dance, look at me, I got the cracker pass or whatever, obviously, it's still, obviously I'm not white enough for a lot of people, okay? Because this would not be a relevant point of contention. This would not be a relevant point of contention if I was named Hank, okay? It would not. And anyone that says that that's not the case, oh, you're just using the race card, is just reinforcing that same bullshit over and over again. The example I gave you is clear. It's like if Zohran went on Bill Maher's show and Bill Maher says something about 9/11 right after 9/11 that I have never said, okay? He went extra hard. Do you think Andrew Cuomo would be using that as a line of attack against Zohran Mamdani? Bill Maher, after 9/11, a week after 9/11, Bill Maher literally went on national television and he said, those attackers were brave. They actually flew the planes into the towers. Okay? You know what's not brave? Lobbing Tomahawk missiles from thousands of miles away. That's not brave. You can like it, you can hate it, but it doesn't matter. You can't deny that that was brave. That's what he said about the 9/11 attackers 2 weeks after 9/11. He got obviously canceled for it. He lost his show over it. Do you think if Zohran went on his show in the buildup to this election, they didn't even talk about 9/11 at all, do you think Andrew Cuomo would be like, Zohran went on the show of Bill Maher, who once famously said that 9/11 attackers were brave people? Clearly, Zohran agrees with this sentiment and wants another 9/11 to happen. Do you think that argument would hold? No, of course not, because Bill Maher's white. That's it. Why won't he condemn Bill Maher? Yeah, he's white. He's pro-Israel. It don't matter, okay? And Sid Rosenberg's been losing his mind on the timeline over and over again. He's like, no, he didn't make the comment I made. Democrats are shameful. I made the comment, and I think I'm right. Leave Cuomo out of it. You got to use tuchus in a sentence. True. Yeah, and then he goes, of course he agreed with me because I'm right. Yeah, that's the problem, big dog. The problem is you and the homies are far more racist than the average person on this issue. Now, society might move in that direction eventually, but it's not there right now. And that's the reason why you're frustrated, because you're like, well, why isn't society as racist as I am? Okay, that's what the problem is for you. Hold on. What the frick? Oh shit. Zohran Mamdani tears up while talking about the Islamophobic attacks on the campaign. Oh shit. They made him tear up, dude. Oh no. Oh no. I thought Sid Rosenberg did a sports show on AM radio. I'm so confused. I mean, he's conservative. He's conservative. He's a conservative talk show host. And you can just get away with heinous lines of attack, dude. You could just get away with so much unlimited, unrestrained racism against certain topics and certain subjects. This is something that I've actually talked about with respect to like anti-black sentiment. America is primarily anti-indigenous and anti-black, okay? That's the fundamentals. The fundamentals are there. But because of that, because of how formative of a part of American culture anti-blackness is and white supremacy is, over the years, it has evolved to be insidious. It has evolved to be almost invisible, right? Even though it's very visible if you're black, obviously. Sometimes even when a white political commentator uses a specific tone when referring to black people. So, but for that reason, like there are certain things, because it's such a like a passive thing that everyone, without even considering, engages in, there is a certain level of anti-blackness that is not allowed, right? The level of anti-blackness that is not allowed is like if you make the common tropes, if you point to, if you say the N-word, for example, or if you make references to certain animals or certain types of food that is stereotypically attributed, right? Like if you do stuff like that, most people understand what you're doing, right? And they don't like it. There is a permission structure around permissible bigotry, as I always like to talk about, right? And the thing with Islamophobia is that because it's newer than white supremacist anti-blackness, and because it ties so perfectly into America's war on terror, it's very heavy-handed, and therefore there is no institutional backlash to overt Islamophobia in the same way. This doesn't mean that like anti-blackness is not a constant. Like I said, it's literally an ever-present part of everyday existence. But because it has been so pervasive throughout American history, especially, that like throughout time, throughout civil rights struggle, throughout all of these different historical evolutions, anti-blackness has had to evolve and in some ways even embed itself as a core part of the American identity. But because of that, you can't get away with being overtly anti-black in the same way that you can being Islamophobic, but only because it's like a newer form of bigotry that hasn't evolved to be a core part of the American identity. It's like how a lot of the Jim Crow laws didn't even mention race, but it was still obviously racialized and anti-black. Exactly. Anti-black has always been here, but your recent rhetoric around Sudan and Congo has been disappointing. What is happening? Chatter, rewind, please. Rewind. I addressed all of it. I promise you. I've addressed your concerns. Rewind. You can rewind now on the Piker Broadcasting Service if you subscribe on the desktop. There's a rewind button right there. If you are watching on your desktop and you are a subscriber, which you can do for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. I talked about it 2 hours. For 2 hours, I'm sure it's already uploaded on the YouTube by a fan channel anyway. You can watch it. You can hear it. You can hear me out. You can hear and listen to me addressing these concerns. Okay? Like I said, you can finally rewind as long as you are a subscriber on the broadcast. If you got lucky enough and you got gifted us up from Open Presents with a 25 gifted, or you subscribed on your own with your Twitch Prime, which is free, or with a $6 month subscription, you can do so. Okay? You can now rewind. Anti-blackness is a constitutive element of civil society, operates on a different ontological plane than anti-Muslim rhetoric. Anti-blackness is a question of subject-object relations. Anti-Muslim sentiment is Orientalism is predicated on negotiating access to hegemony, which anti-blackness theory would argue black folks don't have access to. Okay, that bricked me. God damn. Beacon rewind. Yeah. I don't even know what to respond to that with. All right. Let's finish solving. Look at Zohran's response.
Democrats are shameful. I made the comment. I think I'm right. Leave Cuomo out of it. Religion has long been an undercurrent of this mayoral race, with accusations that Mamdani is anti-Semitic and that Cuomo and his campaign have been Islamophobic.
Cuomo's message is to smear and slander the first Muslim.
Like, I know people don't want to hear this, especially a lot of people who are not like tuned into this stuff, but accusing a Muslim dude who has never said anything anti-Semitic of anti-Semitism is also a little Islamophobic, okay? It's racist as fuck. The notion that like we're constantly talking about Jewish safety and Jewish fears in the campaign or what it would look like, it's no different than white Christian safety and white Christian fears in the South if miscegenation took place. You know what I mean? If miscegenation was allowed, oh my God, white people are going to be fearful. If black people can actually use the same water fountains as black people, then this is actually destroying my Christian white Christian nationalist safe space. Like, people understand that. People, when you bring this up, if you were to bring this counter, if you were to say like, you know, if a racist white supremacist Christian guy in the South was saying, well, I'm really fearful of a black politician being elected in my state, everyone would know exactly what the f is going on when that person says that, okay? But we don't have the capacity to understand that, like, this can still be cynical, okay? Like, when a lot of people talk about Jewish safety in this way, most people do not understand that this can be cynical as well. This is being weaponized against a Muslim candidate. It is racialized. It is racist. It is Islamophobic. Ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Okay? And the very fact that absolutely no one gives a about the unrestrained Islamophobia and the unrestrained racism against all Muslim New Yorkers in this campaign cycle is also a part of that asymmetry. It's a blind spot that many people have. They don't realize that this shit is insane. New York City has what, like 1 million plus Muslims living in it? It's like 1 out of every 10 New Yorkers is Muslim. Okay, a lot of black and brown people in that group. And you're just saying like, well, you know, all Muslims are a little bit scary. Jews are terrified of Muslims being in charge because they're going to do Sharia law. They're going to force halal food down our throats. They're going to do 9/11 again. Yeah, 1 out of 8. That's crazy. 1 out of 8. You're saying 1 out of 8 people in your vicinity is secretly plotting another 9/11. What the are you insane? That's an insanely racist thing to say. Hello?
Candidate on the verge of leading this city. To look at a city where 1 in 8 New Yorkers are Muslim and say that by virtue of your faith, you are worthy of suspicion.
Meanwhile, the Knicks are calling foul on a political ad for Mamdani. The team has issued a cease and desist letter saying that, we'll take a look at this image, that it is misleading to the public. There we go. And that the Knicks do not endorse Mamdani for mayor. Mamdani will be speaking outside of a mosque later in the Bronx today to address what he is calling a renewed wave of Islamophobic rhetoric.
Yeah, Zohran Mamdani's powerful, defiant speech shakes New York City mayoral race. No more shadows. Jalen Brunson, you can do something amazing right now. Yeah, Jalen Brunson, come out. Jalen Brunson, come out and say, you are riding with Zohran. Do it.
6 years ago, shortly after I'd announced I was running for state assembly, a well-meaning Muslim uncle pulled me aside. He smiled softly and looked at me with care. In a quiet voice, he told me I did not have to tell people I was Muslim.
Oh my God, bro. This is literally 1-to-1 the same convo that I had with my grandfather. 1-to-1. I've told you guys this before. My grandfather was like, dude, nobody knows your name is Hasan. If you want, just use Dogan. Your last name already sounds westernized. Piker. Nobody will know any better. Don't ever tell a single person that you're Muslim. What are you, stupid? Either change your name, make it about you. Oh my God! Of course I'm going to use my own personal experience. I've talked about it before, you dumb. What is wrong with you? What do you mean? What am I supposed to do? He said, go ahead, make it about you. The do you guys not understand how Islamophobia works? Like, what the are we doing? Do you not understand how this works? Yeah, it's a commonly shared Muslim experience in the Western world. You've been in here long enough. God damn. I'm validating his experience, saying, oh shit, verbatim happened to me as well, and something that I've talked about in the past.
His eyes kind, his beard proud, and his face heavy with the implications of the unsaid. I had not learned the lesson that he had been taught time and again. It is the lesson that safety could only be found in the shadows of our city. That it is in those shadows alone where Muslims could embrace their full identities. And that if we were to emerge from those shadows,
this is like
in
the
those
talk
shadows
version
that we must leave our
this
faith.
This is the talk version that like black parents have with their kids, but for Muslims, I think. You know, this is like hey, maybe I mean, for Zohran it's especially difficult because he's brown too. You know what I mean? Like, at least I got the white shield on me, you know, so I could get away with like really just being like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I chose not to do that.
These are lessons that so many Muslim New Yorkers have been taught again and again. And over these last few days, these lessons have become the closing messages of Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams. Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists. And he lied again and again when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from the debate stage when he claimed that I support global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat.
Yeah, also, one other thing about the global jihad thing is that it's a double bind, as I've described before. It's the same with like intifada, right? Global jihad or jihad as a term or martyrdom as a term means something very different in Muslim culture and in Arabic in general, right? But jihad in and of itself, in the way that Americans understand it, in the way that Westerners understand it, implies you're going to kill a bunch of non-believers or whatever, right? But Muslims, by and large, do this calculation every time they have to address shit like this, because jihad means struggle, right? Like working out is jihad, right? It's just like, but describing that to people is going to make you come across as like insincere. A lot of people are just going to look at that and be like, oh, here we go. This guy is just really trying to dupe me into believing this, right? So in many circumstances, people don't even bring it up. Muslims don't even bring this shit up. They don't even choose to address it, and they simply address what people think jihad means, right? There's a reason why it's a common unisex name in the Arab world, but that's it. And the same goes for intifada. Like, he chose to once describe that it is the Arabic word for uprising, and that even the Holocaust Museum uses Warsaw Ghetto Intifada, right? So when people say globalize the intifada, they're simply talking about globalizing an uprising, okay? And it doesn't matter how people perceive it. Like, what it actually means is having a revolution, committing to a revolution to uplift people, to engage in emancipation for all people. So, like, he explained it once, but people didn't give a shit about it. They were like, shut the fuck up. You just want all Jews to be murdered, and that's what I'm going to go with. So then he had to make this calculation in his mind as a visible Muslim dude to literally drop it, to be like, oh, it was really hurtful to Jewish New Yorkers. That's insincere. I can say it openly, okay? When he says that, that's actually the insincere part, okay? He was being honest initially when he first responded to the globalize the intifada narratives, okay? He was right the first time, and then people kept hammering him over and over and over and over again, so we had to just suck it the up, okay? He had to suck it the up because he's running for mayor, and he knows how these narratives can take root and become an issue. I didn't think that he should have done that. I think that, like, when your opposition is framing things in an insincere manner, you don't have to actually lean into their framework, and he did, and they never stopped. It's not like they stopped. It's not like he actually ended up soothing the collective fears that people had, because those collective fears were not born out of like anything real. Those collective fears were not born out of a sincere belief that he is going to somehow commit harm to Jewish New Yorkers. Those collective fears were born out of racism. If you look at a guy like Zohran Mamdani and you think he is a dangerous anti-Semite that is going to hurt Jewish New Yorkers, you're an irrational racist person, okay? And I don't care how much you believe that genuinely, okay? Because you can genuinely believe something because you're racist. I think a lot of white people in the South that opposed desegregation were sincere. They literally did think that it would be a racialized jungle if the black children were learning alongside white children. That doesn't mean it's a valid concern. Sometimes you got to shut the up. Sometimes you got to tell people, okay, dog, you need to calm down, all right? That's not how this works. You feel me? Just because someone's concerns are coming from a real place doesn't mean that real place is just really racist, all right? Yeah, you're sincere. You're sincerely racist. That's your problem. You gotta work with that, okay? You gotta work on that on your own. Yeah, as you easily predicted, they moved on to he doesn't condemn globalize the intifada. All the while, where was this energy an hour ago? Wait, what? About what? Do you think that people are being racist towards me because I'm white when they have concern? Okay, I'm not doing this again. I'm getting baited. Shut up. Shut up. Stop it. We're not doing that again.
Polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal food mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices for the city they call home, only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up here, marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that never quite feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never be cleaned. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion in this city. I will always remember the disdain that I faced, the way that my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan on attacking it. And since I was very young, I've also known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant, like a classmate of mine. I've never had the word terrorist spray painted on my garage as one of my staff had to endure. My mosque has never been set on fire. To be Muslim in New York is to expect indignity. But indignity does not make us distinct. There are many New Yorkers who face it. It is the tolerance of that indignity that does. Since I announced my candidacy for mayor 1 year ago yesterday, I have sought to be the candidate fighting for every single New Yorker, not simply the Muslim candidate. I've carried these indignities with me each moment of this race, doing so all the while as the first major Muslim candidate in the history of our city. I thought that if I could...
This is what I mean when I say you just got to eat it. You eat it every day. And this is something that everyone who has experienced some point of marginalization knows exactly what this is, okay? If you're a woman, even if you're a white woman at your workplace, okay, you've been talked down to and you've heard misogynistic statements, right? And you've made that mental calculation of, do I talk about this? Do I bring this up? And if I do bring this up, what will be the reaction? If you're a black person, you've experienced this. When people are engaging with you and they say something anti-black, do I bring this up? Will I be treated as a nuisance if I bring this valid concern up? What will the people around me think? Will they also agree with me? Will they understand my concern as valid and sincere? Or will they agree with the offending party? Is it even better to just keep quiet and eat it in an effort not to look like a spoiler, in an effort not to look like someone who can't get along with everybody else? Do you even want to find out that your coworkers are also in agreement with that? It's a constant state of suspicion that most people are probably not going to agree with you in that moment. Okay? Is it worth it? This doesn't mean that, like, white men are evil or something, straight white men are evil or whatever the fuck. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, like, it is the one group that often doesn't understand this, because it is the one group that does not have any historic association with having to deal with something like this. It just doesn't work. There is no real way. And I say this as a person who is perceived as a straight white guy all the time, okay? Let's be real. There's no intrinsic point of marginalization in that regard. So it's a lot harder, I think, for straight white dudes to kind of understand what this looks like. Because unless you're a gamer. Yeah. Or if you're disabled. That's why I'm also forgiving, for the record, as someone who does experience this quite a bit on as the racial chameleon that I am. I am more understanding and more forgiving, given my personal privilege as well in this regard, when straight white men do actually demonstrate the unconscious biases that they might have, or engage in microaggressions and whatnot. Okay?
Build a campaign of universality. I could define myself as the leader I aspire to be, one representing every New Yorker, no matter their skin color or religion, no matter where they were born. I thought that if I worked hard enough, it would allow me to be that leader. And I thought that if I behaved well enough, or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks, all while returning back to my central message. It would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. No amount of redirection is ever enough. In doing this, I have told the wide-eyed young child in Jackson Heights or the first-time voter in Parkchester that they too should remain in the shadows. In many ways, I have become that same uncle who pulled me aside 6 years ago. No more. The dream of every Muslim is simply be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long, we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive. No more. For as long as we have lived, we have known that no matter what anyone says, there are still certain forms of hate that are acceptable in this city. Islamophobia is not seen as inexcusable. One can incite violence against our mosques and know that condemnation will never come. Elected officials in this city can sell T-shirts calling for my deportation without any fear of accountability. The consequences amidst this inaction are stark. More than 1 million Muslims in this city existing all while being made to feel as if we are guests in our own home. No more. We stand on the precipice of an election, but that is not what today is about. We know that in less than 2 weeks we will say goodbye to a disgraced former governor and our current indicted mayor. The bigger question is whether we are willing to say goodbye to something much larger than either of these two men. It is whether we are willing to say goodbye to anti-Muslim sentiment that has grown so endemic in our city that when we hear it, we know not whether the words were spoken by a Republican or a Democrat. We know only that it was spoken in the language of politics of this city. In an era of ever diminishing bipartisanship, it seems that Islamophobia has emerged as one of the few areas of agreement. And while I appreciate
this is the unfortunate consequence of eating. This is what I was talking about. You eat it for months and months and months, right? And you say, enough. Enough. The fuck are we doing? You keep presenting me as like a barbaric Muslim that is going to do 9/11, okay? And it's not just about me. It's 1 in 8 New Yorkers that are also Muslim that you're attacking like this. And enough is enough. And immediately go, wow, what is he, trying to be the mayor of all Muslims, dude? This is what I was talking about, okay? This is what I was talking about. This is why you eat it, okay? You're like, do I just keep my head down and let this continue? And if I'm keeping my head down and letting this continue, what kind of harm is that bringing upon people like myself, people from the same background? That's the double bind that you're always in. If you ever address shitty behavior from others, okay? If you ever address your own marginalization, if you ever address the experience that you have, there are always going to be people that go, the f, dude, why are you bringing this up? You're really up the vibes. You know, this was a joyful candidacy. Like it doesn't feel good is my point. Okay. This is also part of the reason why I spent the last 2 hours explaining my own personal experience with this stuff as a person who is the recipient of it for the last 2 years, with all of my colleagues standing idly by and not even letting out a peep, okay? Not even once letting out a peep for a position that I maintained, a position that is now the majority position, a position that colleagues of mine that were silent about out of fear that they would be yelled at, that they now can openly declare they're in support of, okay? Not once did a single turn around and go, Twitch or terrorist? That seems like a little crazy that you just have a bunch of Arab Muslim content creators and you're comparing them to terrorists. This doesn't seem like a fun game. This seems pretty racist, as a matter of fact. Okay? And not a single person spoke out on it. And to this day, they do not. And they never will. And I just ate it every day. knowing full well that if you bring it up and you say, hey, this is kind of fucked up, they'll make a larger conversation about it. Okay? Other content creators have called for my deportation, consistently called me a terrorist, laughed about it like it's jokes. Not a peep from anybody. Okay? Not a peep from anyone. This is how racist attitudes continue to thrive. Okay? And at a certain point, you got to stand up for yourself. So I'm proud that Zohran's doing this. Because if you don't do it, everyone's going to think it's totally fine. 26% of adults, like, look. Oh my God. 26% of adults in the New York City metro area identify as religiously unaffiliated. Call them bigots, idiots, and publicly and publicize your politics. Otherwise, you're playing into identity politics. Also, don't insult me. I insulted nobody. Brother, that's the problem. You don't think that this is insulting. No one should be able to stand up for themselves after constantly being on the receiving end of racialized attacks over and over again. Do you not understand? I mean, you don't. Clearly, you don't understand it. Address the issue. Address the argument. Should a Muslim candidate say, hey, 1 out of 8 New Yorkers is Muslim, we're getting a little out of hand with this Islamophobic line of attack, don't you think? Because, like, if Zohran was Jewish, okay, let's use that as an example. Zohran is running for mayor of New York. Let's say he's not Zohran, he's a Jewish guy running for mayor of New York, okay? And they keep saying, like, oh, here we go again. Jews control the media. Jews control politics. Here we go again with Jewish degeneracy. He has his tentacles in everything. And he came out and was like, yo, we got to stop with this anti-Semitism. Like, there are a lot of Jewish New Yorkers who feel unsafe. Everybody would understand what's going on there. Okay? Not everything is id, Paul, is what I'm saying. Sometimes it's all right to just, like, take a back seat and be like, okay, maybe there is a valid concern here. All right? Especially if this person has already, presented a vision that you abide by, a vision that you like, you know, even if you don't fully comprehend it. Yeah. Sometimes it's not identity politics if you're getting called a jihadist who wants to do 9/11 to Electric Boogaloo every day of the week. Okay? It's all right that you can be like, this is irredeemable shit that people are engaging in. The problem is, and I'm sure Zohran knows this very well, as do I, from my own personal experiences, the moment that you do stand up for yourself, a lot of people do check out. Okay? A lot of people check out. So you just kind of have to eat it. So what do? Like, especially in the field of politics, like I'm sure, maybe I'm too cynical. Maybe I'm far too cynical on this, but I do think that, you know, I mean, this still keeps bringing my name up as well on this. Okay. Notably, Cuomo doesn't give the same grace that Hasan Piker, whose America Deserved 9/11 comment was made in the same kind of freewheeling, shock jock, satirical tone of Rosenberg. Yeah. And not even literally, a week before the elections, and not even with Zohran. Okay. I feel like in this circumstance, you don't address it and you keep going, but then all of that unsafe attitude remains, and it manifests and it festers, right? And people think it's appropriate. They can get away with it without any sort of social pressure or social pushback. Okay? But then you win by a wider margin, but you do address it and you win by a smaller margin, but hopefully some people who like you understand that this is inappropriate and they also join in on fighting back. And yeah, the reason why this tweet is, this is a Politico reporter asked again about this exchange. Cuomo says today, yes, I can see where if you took it serious, I was offensive. I didn't take it seriously at the time period, but that's not the point. About 9/11 too. Notably, Cuomo doesn't give the same grace to Hasan Piker, whose 2019 America Deserved 9/11 comment was made in the same kind of freewheeling, shock jock, satirical tone of Rosenberg. He thinks this gives him carte blanche. Okay? He thinks this is like, he thinks Andrew Cuomo is flailing. He wants to associate Zohran with 9/11, and he thinks this is a valid line of attack. For most people, they don't know who the fuck I am, so they don't think this is a valid line of attack. And even people who do know who the fuck I am know what I meant when I said it. Okay, so the largest majority of New Yorkers who are going to go out and vote, they don't know who the fuck I am, right? So they don't give a shit. They're like, what are you saying? Some Twitch streamer, some podcaster? I don't give a fuck about this. Okay, but then the ones that do either already despise me because of my anti-Israel position to begin with, or my progressive values to begin with, and they were never going to vote for Zohran anyway, right? Or out of the people that do know me, the overwhelming majority like what I have to say. They understand what I was talking about, and they understand that it's not, a consequential aspect in this race. Okay? Can you contrast with the last national election where, if I recall correctly, you said multiple times it was good that Harris didn't lean into being black or a woman? I think it would help people understand, Jen. Exactly. And Zohran didn't lean into that either, for the record. But it got to a point where, this is the only line of attack. This is the only line of attack. They can't get him on anything, so they just keep hammering the. At least with Kamala Harris, you could be like, oh, the trans stuff or this or that. You know what I mean? Kamala Harris had multiple different lines of attack, partially because she didn't have policies that you could tie her to, that she was a ride or die advocate of. And that was a major weakness for Kamala Harris. And they certainly did shit on her for being black and a woman, right? Being a black woman. They did that all the time. But she did not even spend any moment addressing that, because she knew that if you do address that, people are going to go, oh, here we go again. And it's the same thing with Zohran here as well. It's just that this is the only line of attack. So he sees this as an opportunity to try and neutralize. And it's not necessarily just for him. It's not a cynical ploy to win the election or anything. He's already winning the election. If anything, this might even hurt his chances, because people will go, idpol, identity politics. The implication here from Andrew Cuomo is that standing for the rights of Muslim New Yorkers is in contradiction with standing for the same rights for Jewish New Yorkers. I cannot imagine a worse or more divisive closing message for an already disgraced candidate. All right, let's finish the Zohran speech and then we'll continue.
All who have rushed to my defense over these past few days. I think of those Muslims in this city who do not have the luxury of being the Democratic nominee, who do not have the luxury of being deemed worthy of solidarity. While my opponents in this race...
If Islamophobia is seen as acceptable at worst by many Americans and New Yorkers, should Mamdani just be normal and abide by the sentiment by hiding the fact that he's Muslim or even putting down the Muslim community? I thought being normal and appealing to the current broad sentiment is the only way to be taken seriously politically. I don't think you understand what I mean when I say be normal, okay? If Zohran came out of the gates swinging, talking about Islamophobia, or what do you mean hiding his background? Okay, he can't really hide it. Okay, he's brown. You're trying to tie this back to how I also abide by some kind of white supremacist values when I tell people to be normal, but that's not. There's a difference. Okay, especially for example, if this level of attack against a black candidate was happening in the same vein, okay? This is an angry black man. This is a violent black man, just like all black men are angry, violent. If that was happening, obviously, a black candidate would understandably address that at a certain point, despite the fact that there is most likely going to be a negative backlash associated with it from white people that go, ugh, I don't want to hear this. Okay? You said just be normal about Plattner and pro-military sentiments. No, not even about Plattner, but the notion, yes. The notion of saying every veteran is a baby murderer that must be hanged is an abnormal statement if you are trying to engage in coalition building. What the Yes, that is a psychotic way to approach a massive group of people. You also have to understand, while white supremacy is the normative position, okay, and bigotry of all sorts is the normative position, there is a level where it reaches beyond the permission structure, okay? Beyond the permissible bigotry. You're being so dishonest right now, Hasan. Shame. You hate it, Paul, in most contexts. Oh my God. Chatter. If someone were to call a black person the N-word, and then that black person said, hey, can you stop that? That's racist. Would you say this is identity politics? What is happening? Wait, no. Okay, then shut the fuck up.
Have brought hatred to the forefront. This is just a glimpse of what so many have to endure every day across this city. And while it would be easy for us to say that this is not who we are, as a city, we know the truth. This is who we have allowed ourselves to become. And a question lies before each of us. Will we continue to accept a narrow definition of what it means to be a New Yorker that makes smaller every day the number of those guaranteed a life of dignity? Will we remain in the shadows, or will we together step into the light? There are 12 days remaining until Election Day. I will be a Muslim man in New York City each of those 12 days and every day that follows after that. I will not change who I am, how I eat, or the faith that I am proud to call my own. But there is one thing that I will change. I will no longer look for myself in the shadows. I will find myself in the light. Thank you very much.
Cuomo apologize.
Like, the funniest part about all this is that, like, white supremacy is a fairly universal experience, a universal institution. So, like, Andrew Cuomo isn't just shitting on Muslims in general, even though he's been hitting that line pretty hard. He's been shitting on black and brown people in the process as well. Like, that ad that he dropped was so psychotic, bro, with the AI Idris Elba. Like, that was insane. He's like, well, you know how these black people are. They love stealing from grocery stores while wearing a keffiyeh and a mask. Like, that was so unhinged. That wasn't just like Andrew Cuomo. If we were being real, okay, he needed to apologize to basically every minority group for that ad, for that AI ad. It's psychotic. Yeah, he shit on every group in that, bro. He shit on every group. He shit on white ladies too.
Breaking news: House Minority Leader.
He said white ladies love drinking and driving. White grandmothers. Cuomo's response to the speech. Just spoke to Cuomo by phone. Here's his response. I think Mamdani has created great fear among the Jewish community and many other communities. He's affirmatively offensive. It has nothing to do with his being Muslim. It has to do with what he says. Oh my God, how many times have I heard that? Weren't you just talking about how the U.S. doesn't have Euro-style racism and now this happens? No, this is the reason why it's not working is because the broader New York audience, the broader New York population, the broader New Yorker base of voters don't harbor that same level of resentment in the ways that that Europeans have. That's the reason why it's not working. But we can't even get this to look past it or apologize for it, you know? Yeah. In the wake of this, no one will suggest that a Muslim-hating candidate like Cuomo is a threat to the well-being of Muslim New Yorkers. No one will consider their fears about him becoming mayor. No one will claim that his views on Gaza violate the sensitivities of Arabs and Muslims. Or anyone with a conscience, really. Because remember, I said this yesterday, and obviously this is an issue that's a little personal for me as well, because, you know, I've been the recipient of this kind of dog shit nonstop, including, but not limited to this. XQC almost passes out laughing at Aiden Ross calling Hassan a terrorist and ban him and deport him. 155,000 views. How many hype points can you get? Like, these are my coworkers, dog. The and not a single person at any point is like, hey, that's kind of weird, you know? Don't you feel like that's a little insensitive? Like maybe we should dial it back a little bit. Nope. Anyway, lunacy, but that doesn't matter. The point I was making with Zohran, especially as like the Jewish fears being used as a weapon to get away with saying whatever kind of Islamophobic shit that you want to say about a visibly Muslim candidate is so tired and so racist. Because like it's just, I said this on the debate night where I said, bro, this New York Jews are terrified of the Muslim mayor who has the majority opinion on Israel's genocide shit is so goddamn tired and frankly racist. Because remember, what is getting lost in this conversation is that we're having this moment, and what has Zohran said or done? Oh, he has the majority opinion, the majority New Yorkers' opinion on Israel. How is that any different than any average New Yorker that you encounter? This is exactly what they did during the primaries, and it failed. Are we for real? Are we for real? Bullshit. Because the argument ultimately comes down to, yeah, okay, I don't like what you're saying. Okay, everyone is saying what you're saying, but I don't like that you are saying it. So one must question why it's a big problem when Zohran is saying the same shit that overwhelming majority of New Yorkers are saying it. New York Jews are saying it. Why is it any different when Zohran is saying it? Think. Mamdani, this was the heart of the message, by the way. I thought that if I behaved well enough or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks, all while returning back to my central message, it would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. You know? Because they're not going for the mayor position. Wait, what? Okay. What if it was not Zohran, but a Jewish candidate that was up there saying the majority position and taking an anti-Zionist stance? Do you think they would be able to call him a terrorist every day in the same way that they are for Zohran? Don't be obtuse, man. This is how stereotypes work. That's it. Then he'd be a self-hating Jew. Yeah. Do you think that the self-hating Jew narratives work in the United States of America? They tried to pull that shit with Bernie Sanders. How many people believed that? They laughed it off. When Bernie was running in 2016 and he said, we got to cut weapons to Israel, they tried to pull that shit with him. Did it work? No, obviously not. Don't be stupid. Anyway, the implication here for Zohran's response, Andrew Cuomo's response to Zohran is standing for the rights of Muslim New Yorkers is in contradiction with standing for the same rights for Jewish New Yorkers. I cannot imagine a worse or more divisive closing message for an already disgraced candidate. The implication here is also false. Muslims and Jews both have the right to safely live in the 5 boroughs. Zohran is smeared as an anti-Semite for being a Muslim who stands against Israeli occupation and genocide and still makes consistent appeals that he will be a mayor for all. Cuomo makes no such appeals. Every day he wakes up and tries to twist the knife as far as possible into the Muslim community. His closing message has been as Islamophobic as anything I've seen in my life. Everyone involved in this campaign should be banished from public life. I feel like I'm going insane. Why does any reporter ever make him answer for any of his... Why doesn't any reporter ever make him answer for any of his vile statements? It's crazy. If you're running around saying, you know, all Muslims are responsible for 9/11, you're out of your mind. That shit needs to be called out at some point. Yeah, just wait. Just wait until the anti-black and brown rhetoric gets tuned up even higher. It's already hard. It's already started with the immigration enforcement stuff. But wait till we go to war in Latin America, you know?
Race for the...
It's already exploding. But this will give just cause to Donald Trump to do the concentration camps completely. Oh, all brown people are a threat. They already say it. All brown people are enemy from within. They're going to do Dearborn-style mass surveillance on every Mexican, Guatemalan, Venezuelan, Argentinian, every single community, because What if they're actually secretly working in service of Venezuela or any number of different Latin American countries that we seek to destroy? Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.